What's up, guys? My name is Ryan and welcome back to the Bible Dingers channel. And today we are going to be doing something a little bit different. Normally we talk about Bible and theological topics, but whenever I watched this movie, I felt like I had to make a video about some of my thoughts and concerns, and that movie is Turning Red. Alright, so just a little disclaimer before I get into it. We talk a lot about some adult themes in this video, so if you have kids around, you may want to click on another video that we have. There may be some stuff that I'm discussing here that you don't want them to listen to. So I did subject myself to the entirety of this Turning Red movie. I safely put the kids away in bed, and my wife and I sat down and we forced ourselves to watch this movie from beginning to end. I heard many parents saying that they couldn't get through the first 15 minutes, and for the people, we watched the entire movie. So let me first give you an overview of the movie before we get into some of my issues with it. The movie is about a young girl named Mei Lee, and it's sort of a coming of age story for her. It's about when she hits puberty for the first time and she gets her first period. And the way they analogize her getting her first period is by her turning into this red panda for the first time. And whenever she gets emotional or excited, she turns into this red panda, and it's supposed to symbolize her first period and going through puberty and her hormones doing all these things to her emotions. In my opinion, there's a primary issue with this movie and there's a secondary one. The secondary one is what I'm hearing a lot of people talking about, and that is the sexual references. While I think that is a big deal and it's a major reason to not show it to your kids, to me this was not the primary issue with the movie. So as you can see, there was a critic who described this movie as the horniest movie of 2022 or something like that. There's a lot of sexual references in this movie. I'm not gonna spend the entire video talking about each and every sexual reference because that would take a really long time. But I did watch somebody else's video where they sort of break down every sexual reference in the movie one by one, and I'm gonna go ahead and link that in the description for you guys if you wanna check that out. But I am going to hit some of the highlights that stuck out to me that I think that you should know about. The first one I think is the trigger for most of the parents to turn the movie off. It's right around the 15-minute mark. And this is this really weird scene where we have a 12-year-old girl going under her bed and drawing what she calls sexy pictures of boys with their shirts off. She's drawing definition on their chests and arms and giving them abs and stuff like that. And it gets weird because it sort of pictures her having this fever dream kind of feeling about it. She starts sweating profusely and breathing heavily. And it's just clearly a symbol for something else that's really inappropriate for kids to be seeing. Later on in the movie, there's a little girl who mentions stripper music, and she says, "What's wrong with stripper music?" Also, around the same time, a little girl calls a little boy a perv. And my daughter is 6 years old, and she's in the asking questions phase. She's always asking me, what does this mean? What does that mean? Why does this happen? And I can only imagine watching this movie with my 6-year-old daughter and her asking me what a perv is. As you and I know, the conversation would go something like this. Well, sweetie, a perv is somebody who really, really desperately wants to have sex. And there's weird vibes that are associated with the word perv. And so, sweetheart, it's a person that really desperately wants to have sex and they're weird about it. They're being weird about it. And that's what a perv is. Still on top of this, there's constant daydreams that this little girl is having of boys with their shirts off, and them sort of being sensual with each other and touching and whispering to each other with no clothes on. And then one of the parts that I hated the most that was sexual was towards the end when the mother and the daughter are fighting, and the daughter, in rebellion towards her mother, just to make her mother angry, is shaking her butt at her, and she's spanking her butt at her, which was just like mind-blowing to me when I saw it. Like I said, that's just a handful of the sexual issues that I saw with the movie, and I'm gonna link a more in-depth video in the description. But that is, in my mind, the secondary issue. The primary issue with this movie is really the agenda that is behind it. And I think what they're doing is pushing this core belief worldview onto kids, this improper worldview onto kids. And the worldview that they're pushing is that it is right and it is good to be controlled by your primal sinful emotions and to be completely controlled by them and to rid yourself of wise living and righteous living and just follow your primal emotional impulses. So in the movie, the mother who is trying to teach her daughter to control her impulses, to act wisely and to not act impulsively, the mother is actually the antagonist of the movie. She's the villain of the movie, while the daughter, who is acting purely on sinful emotion and impulses, she is the protagonist of the movie. She's the hero of the movie. This is wrong on several levels. It's not just the fact that Mei Li was dishonoring and disrespecting and rebelling against her parents. That is a big deal. But what's the bigger deal is this strong reinforcement to children of the hedonistic lifestyle. This isn't new to Hollywood or movies. It's been pushed for a long time. It's a worldview that you see in any sort of rom-com, really anything that comes out of Hollywood is sort of this hedonistic worldview that we should be pursuing our pleasures and that's what will bring true happiness. But I believe that this movie is sort of that message on steroids and directed directly to children. In a lot of other movies, it's sort of subtle, it's hinted at, but this is the actual crux. This is the actual meaning and purpose of this movie, is that we should be pursuing a hedonistic lifestyle. So I wanted to bring just an entire list of examples from Proverbs that disprove the message and the worldview that this movie is trying to teach to our kids. But when I started to compile a list of examples, it just got massive, and it would take me hours to go through reading all these examples from the Proverbs about wise living. And so I just want to give you one more. It's a little bit long, but bear with me. I want to give you one more that really speaks to the heart of the message that this movie is sending. The portion of scripture is Proverbs 1, verses 20 through 33, and I'm going to go ahead and read it. It says, "Wisdom cries aloud in the street. In the markets she raises her voice. At the head of the noisy streets she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing, and fools hate knowledge? If you turn at my reproof, behold, I will pour out my spirit to you. I will make my words known to you. Because I have called and you refuse to listen, have stretched out my hand and no one has heeded, because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when terror strikes you. When terror strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel and despised all my reproof." And these next three verses to me are the key, verses 31 through 33. It says, "Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way, and have their fill of their own devices. For the simple are killed by their turning away, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But whoever listens to me will dwell secure, and will be at ease without dread of disaster." So the message that's being pushed by Turning Red and the message that we read in Proverbs are at exact odds with one another. They are complete opposites of one another. Turning Red teaches you that you should follow the ways of the foolish, that you should follow your own stupidity, while the Proverbs teaches you that you should follow knowledge You should follow wisdom. You should live diligently, because you will eat the fruit of your lifestyle. You will reap what you sow. And if you live a hedonistic, foolish lifestyle, you will sow destruction. You will sow calamity. And therefore you will reap destruction and you will reap calamity. On the other hand, if you're living with wisdom and knowledge, then you will reap wisdom and knowledge. You will reap the rewards of living that sort of lifestyle. The climax of this movie was when Mei Li was confronting her mother. They were arguing because Mei Li wanted to keep this wild side. She wanted to keep the panda and make it a part of who she was. And the mother didn't want her to do that. And so there was this big epic battle at the end. And the crux was, at the end of this battle, the mother and the daughter are in this sort of other realm where you can choose to either keep your panda, which is your wild side, or get rid of your panda, which is your wild side. And Mei Li, the daughter, chooses to keep her wild side and make it a part of her. What happens is the mother apologizes to her daughter, and she essentially says that the more her daughter embraces her wild side, the more she will be proud of her, and the more she will love her. And this is the climax of the movie. This is the main message of the movie, that the mother was wrong. She shouldn't have been teaching her daughter to live with wisdom. And the daughter was right, that we should be embracing our wild side. We should be embracing a lifestyle that leads to our own destruction. This is really my main beef with the movie. It completely disregards any sort of teaching that you reap what you sow. It is teaching your kids to embrace a foolish lifestyle to their own demise. And if you are allowing your kids to consume a movie with this message, they will grow up with this sort of ingrained in their belief system. They saw it in a movie when they were kids that they watched over and over, that it is right to embrace your wild side, and your parents are wrong if they're trying to tell you something different. And so as they're growing and as they're being molded and shaped into who they're going to be as adults, they're going to think, okay, my parents they're making a mistake right now, and I am going to rebel against them, because one day when I embrace my wild side, they will accept it. They will accept that they were wrong, that they shouldn't have been teaching me to live with wisdom. They should apologize one day. They should come meet me where I am and allow me to destroy my own life. I did want to give a word of advice to parents that have Disney Plus and you are worried about your kids watching things that you don't want them to watch. Disney Plus has something called a watch list feature, and this is something that my wife and I use. And essentially you can populate the watch list with like 60 or 70 movies. We populated our watch list 6 or 7 months ago. And the thing with kids is they can watch movies over and over again. So those 70 movies are plenty. And if you think back on your childhood, you probably had like 8 VHS tapes that you watched for a decade. So 70 movies on Disney Plus is totally fine. My wife and I feel comfortable with these movies. A lot of them are the ones that we grew up with, like The Lion King and whatever else. So just add movies to the watch list that you feel comfortable with your kids watching, and make a rule in your house and say you guys are only allowed to watch stuff on the watch list. You can't go browsing around and picking whatever you want. Just click on the watch list and you can watch whatever you want from there. And lastly, I've been seeing a lot of angry comments on any video that speaks against this movie. And for other people who feel the same way as I do, or now feel the same way as I do, I just wanted to mention Proverbs 9, verses 7 through 9. It says, "Whoever corrects a scoffer gets himself abuse, and he who reproves a wicked man incurs injury. Do not reprove a scoffer, or he will hate you. Reprove a wise man, and he will love you. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be still wiser. Teach a righteous man, and he will increase in learning.